So what's up, guys? Welcome to the Independent Symposium. Our panel today is a needle in a haystack, music discovery via short form content. So if each of you guys could introduce yourself and give just a little background of what you do, and then we can get into some questions and get into some juicy conversation. Aaron, you want to go first?
Sure. So my name is Erin Jones Wesley. I am a content creator. For me, my largest platform is TikTok, but I also create films and TV as well. And so going into the TikTok world has been something for me that I've found really entertaining. I've been able to really target an audience of girls from 13 to about 24, and it's about an 80% female audience. And so it's really about having a good engagement with those fans, and through talking to girls who play sports or girls who are getting out of sports, it's been a really fun way to get to know them and get to know the landscape of these TikTok users.
That's really cool. I should have my daughter follow you. She plays water polo and does crew. So as a father watching my daughter be able to communicate and participate in this world, it's like really nice to have different women role models for her to look up to in the sports segment for sure. So that's really cool. What's up, Dylan? Dylan, me and you go back a little bit. We've done a lot of campaigns together and a lot of cool creative stuff together. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Dylan Drews, founder of Drews Media. I have a marketing agency that specializes in everything from Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Triller campaigns. I also have a management label company. I would say I run anywhere from 7 to 10 TikTok campaigns a week, and I've worked with every single major label, from very small independent people all the way up to some of the biggest hip hop artists in the game. So it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So we can jump into some questions. I got a few key questions to ask, and you guys some seem pretty simple and some are a little bit more in depth, but we could kind of hop off with this one. So in the new music economy, do you believe it's essential for artists to have their music available on short form content services? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Yeah, I think that it's really important for artists to have their music be available on short form content, specifically because I know that when you're going to go make something, sometimes you have a song in your head that you think would fit your video really well. And there's nothing more disappointing than that song not being there. But also there's really something exciting about not knowing a song exists and finding it through other content creators. And you hear a song and you go, oh, I've never heard that song before, but that totally fits what I plan to talk about tomorrow. Or maybe I have a dance that I can go do to that. And I think that we've really been able to see that it has been really beneficial, not only to artists, but also to the people who are creating the content and also people who are consuming the content, that we all want to find new music and we all kind of want to be that first one to have that discovery. And so for artists to put their songs there and allow users to discover it, I don't think that there's a better time for that.
Yeah. What do you think, Dylan?
I think it's absolutely important, and one of the most important things right now for artists to do. I think it just shows with all the partnerships with TuneCore and DistroKid, even the independents, they're having partnerships with TikTok and Triller where the music is automatically being uploaded when you upload the song to the DSPs. The reason I say that is because, obviously on the marketing agency side, I see from a large scale what works and what doesn't. And the thing about TikTok is most of the trends that happen there happen organically, and they happen from a random person finding a random song. And a lot of songs are completely unknown and they just sort of blow up out of nowhere. And without that piece of discovery, that sort of initial chain never happens. And I think right now more than ever, if an artist has the ability to upload the song on TikTok, it's a small percentage of it happening, but compared to 5-10 years ago, there's just this crazy potential that a random person can just find it and search it, and it can just become way bigger than it ever could be without being there. So I think it's 100% has to be a part of the rollout plan for every single release.
And I like what you said about that. I mean, I think, look, I don't want to date myself, but I've been in the music business for 24 years. So I came I started first in the business when we still had CDs. So like, you know, when you were marketing and breaking a record back then, you really had limited places to break. So you had radio, you had TV and video, and you had press, you know, and to be an artist and roll those things out yourself, it was like insanely expensive. So it was the concept of being an independent artist was like really, really tough then. So I think now that we do have all these different outlets to discover music is amazing. But one question for you, Dylan, which I always kind of go back and forth on, how do you see people finding their voice in this short form content? Because like, you know, there'll be some artists where it's like, you watch them and it's cringe because they haven't found their voice, you know, versus like some kids and some influencers, they just got it. It's like they just turn the camera on and boom, they know their messaging, they know their voice. What do you say about that? Like if you find someone that's like an amazing singer songwriter, but it's like they can just not communicate, you know, in short form content. It seems to be like, and I see this all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think a good example is like, even if you look on TikTok in the hip hop industry, you see people like Lil Yachty, who I don't know if you've seen, he's been like sort of taking over TikTok. Yeah. But then you have other artists like maybe a Little Tekka who's completely shy and doesn't want to be in the camera. I think when it comes to that, an artist is going to have to be true to their brand, and not every artist is going to have like a TikTok personality. It doesn't mean they can't be cool and looked at differently, because obviously I think the trouble with TikTok, and even with the artists I manage, they talk to me about it on a daily basis, is how do I connect with the TikTok fans without being corny? Because especially I mainly work in rap and hip hop. They want to have a certain image, and when they're on the platform, they're, you know, talking to 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and they're trying to say like, you know, do I really want to be doing this little dance or doing this little trend? Right. How do I connect to the fans? But I mean, I think when it comes to that, it's gonna apply to each artist different. The good thing about it is you can be completely not camera shy and still have you can be completely camera shy and still have a song go viral and sort of hide behind the music. Yeah. But I think the bonus I think Little Yachty is someone I've been watching a lot on TikTok, really like master it. The bonus is if you can get your own videos cranking millions of views, it's just gonna push your trend further and further. It's just way more beneficial than Instagram, in my opinion, for music.
Yeah, no, for sure. What do you guys, and then I'll ask this, and whoever wants to jump in first can jump in. What are some of the most effective ways artists and influencers can get short form content? What are some of the most effective ways artists can get short form content creators or influencers to use their songs? And how does one directly reach out to these people?
Yeah, I can jump in first. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, from the very small level, so it's all relative to how big the artist is. So let's just say you're an artist that has 1,000 Instagram followers, you're just starting, you're putting your music out on TuneCore. I think the cool thing about TikTok is there is a whole level of micro influencers, of people that are just becoming famous on the platform, like that week. Like, you know, all it takes is one For You post, and you know, people will go 100,000 followers in 24 hours. So I think even my friend's a good example. My friend, as an artist, completely unknown, has a song. You would never know this guy, but what he's doing is, you know, he's just cold outreaching to micro influencers, people with 25 to 50,000 followers, and building relationships with them, saying, hey, like, you know, I love your page, check out my song, would love to have you use it in a video. Not even asking for money, but sort of just building that relationship. And I think the bigger the artist, the bigger you can scale that. My main client that I manage, Bankroll Hayden, what we've done with him is sort of a twofold approach. Is one, I basically took his account, and me and him, you know, in the beginning, maybe DM'd like 200 or 300 people. Wow. Out of those 200 or 300 people, he became friends with a couple of them in person, started linking up with them. You know, these TikTok kids, it's sort of a cult. They all hang out with each other. It's this new Hollywood thing. They all eat at this restaurant on Sunset. So what Hayden started doing was just becoming friends with them. But then from my perspective, it's the same thing from his managers. I'm trying to become friends with the managers of the TikTokers. So the Sway House, or, even if it's WME, who has a lot of big people, it's how do I become friends with the people that are in control of the finance side of it? So then, especially on my end, is that I don't mind paying for the agency side, but then if I have a management client, I try to work out deals by leveraging the amount of money I pay on the agency side to then get discounts for my artists. But yeah, I think just like to sum it all up, the main thing is just having that one-on-one dialogue, whether you or you're Tyga. And I think that someone like Tyga is a really good example as well of someone who's taking advantage of the platform. And even like Jason Derulo, you see these two people, they're finding songs going viral on TikTok. They're reaching out to the influencer, to the artist. They're remaking it their own. And then they're expanding their brand into a whole new lane. And I think it's just all about this collaboration and just testing stuff out. And the people that are doing, it's not going to work every time, but as you see, it's, I don't think I don't know, I forget the name of the song, that Siren Beat by Jason Derulo.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, who would have ever thought like an elevator song would be top 10 on Billboard? And it's because of sort of this collaboration and cold outreach that he did.
Yeah.
So
Got you. And what do you think about that, Aaron? I mean, it is pretty interesting. If you just build direct relationships, it's relationship building. It's just a different way, like before it was like you meet people in real time and you hang out with them. And like now you can just reach out to people, DM them. And if they're into you, it's a vibe and it can really work. I mean, we had so many before the quarantine, and we had so many, influencer kids at the office doing dances with Kyle and just hanging out. And it was like really simple and really awesome,
Yeah, it definitely is about the relationships. And Dylan brings up a good point that all of the content creators kind of know each other and hang out. Like I'm in a huge group chat right now where with all of the TikTok Black TikTok users. So TikTok has a whole creator platform where they specifically are working with the hashtag Black TikTok. And so there's a bunch of us in this group text where we can just talk about the content that we're making, songs that we're using, artists who've reached out to us, what people are getting paid for their posts. And it's really transparent because I think that content creators know that we need to talk to each other because there is no union and we need to know what's happening. I think that like in terms of artists and how they reach out, like I've been reached out to directly by artists and then also with managers or a friend of a friend who's like within their network. And I think that it really does, for me personally, I like it when it has like kind of someone in between because it does make it feel a little bit more serious. But that being said, if it was someone I was a huge fan of, like if Britney Spears DM'd me personally and said, hey, I have a new song coming out, will you make a dance? Right. I would be like stoked that Britney Spears DM'd me and I would do it. No issue. Right. So, I think it all just depends on the artist and if they know they're reaching out to a fan versus if it's someone that's an up and coming artist that you haven't heard of yet. Sometimes it's a lot easier if there is someone else to say, hey, I have a new artist. They're trying to break through. How does this work? But I think also, a great example is an up-and-coming artist, Ty Verdes, who has the song Stuck in the Middle. And I think that why people were drawn to the song, why people were drawn to him is because he just was on the platform. And I think that in terms of people who are consuming the content, if someone's there because they just like to do it. Like Jason Derulo, Dylan brought him up. And I feel like Jason Derulo, it seems like he's making content because he just likes to make the content. And he's somehow figured out how to bring himself into that fold where it is his personality, but it is really fun. And he's doing more than anyone ever does on TikTok. He goes above and beyond with his content creation. Yeah. And everyone kind of makes fun of him for it, but it's also very fun and we like to consume it.
Yeah.
And so I think and it works for him. Exactly. So I think when it feels authentic and it feels like this person likes to make content and they're one of us, right? Yeah. Then of course you want to use their music because like they're one of us. They get it. They're on TikTok, so that makes it fun.
No, that's awesome. Jason Derulo definitely, look, I think that when you're an artist, you need to sort of move with the times and like figure out how you can continue to communicate. Because like I was talking to someone the other day, the funny thing is so before I started, indie pop, I was a radio promoter. So I was the guy that got the record on the radio 100 times a week. That was literally my job. I worked for all the different record labels. And one of the records I broke out of Palm Springs was Jason Derulo's What You Say, the an Imogene Heap sample. And it's like, that was in probably 2006, I guess, 2004. So, you know, I mean, you're talking about like a considerable amount of time ago. And when you have had the success he's had in a music level, and then you see this platform like TikTok, well, why not use it if it works for you? I mean,
I mean, even someone
applaud
like Prince,
yeah,
right? Like Prince
yeah,
postmortem, he had this huge rollout of his music,
yeah,
and everyone still was making TikToks to Prince songs who wasn't even
totally.
really here when
Yeah,
TikTok was breaking out. So I
it's
think
really
it's a good
cool.
point.
I mean, I do like that part. I like that part about, you know, people discovering music. And I think that sort of leads me into my next question, which is radio's long dominated how people discover new music, but younger generations seem to be using streaming services and social media now more than ever to discover new artists and their releases, no matter how big or small the artist is. The power of music discovery seems to be more in the hands of the creators and influencers of these apps than the radio stations. Do you agree with this? And what should artists be doing to adapt more to this new form of music discovery? And I'll say, like, I was just talking to a program director right before I hopped on this call, and I was a radio promoter for the first part of my career. The first part of my whole life was traveling around the country, talking to music directors, program directors, and for me to be able to see the flip, because we talked about this flip, we talked about this in early 2000s, like, yo, eventually there's going to be one guy that sits at the head of Clear Channel and presses a button and it programs all the stations, and one guy that sits at Radio One, and so on and so forth. And how cool would it be if you could be an artist and you could break your music independently without having to go to radio? Now, radio is still a massive way to communicate to your fans, but I truly think that it's the last thing that we do now, because it's a ton of money to break a record at radio, and it's cost prohibitive, sort of like what I said earlier on. So I think that, like, for me to answer that one question myself, I think it's awesome, but I would like to hear what you guys think about that. And if you truly feel like the power is in the hands of the creators, because I do, you know what I'm saying? So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that. Okay.
I would agree with your point 100%. Like you said, radio is extremely expensive. You know, a small radio budget could be $100,000 just to
Totally.
start off and test a campaign, where if you want to do a TikTok campaign, you might only need 5 to 10,000.
Sure.
And you hear a lot of the biggest songs on the radio or even the Billboard top 10, you know, half of it is starting from TikTok. So I like that you said that. You know, you start with the creators, they break it to a level where, you know, it starts getting editorial DSPs. Once you know it's working and reacting, then you take that huge budget and bring it to radio. In your head, you think it's a hit, spending, you know, $250,000 and then getting absolutely no ROI. And it's like, even if you were to spend 30% of that radio budget on content creators, the ROI is just going to be so much higher.
Yeah.
The only situation where radio still might make sense first is if it's not a TikTok song, even though I don't even know what is or what isn't a TikTok song at this point. But let's just say you're like Miley Cyrus or Justin Bieber, one of these superstars. That's still the only situation where if you're putting out a song, I could see you going to radio immediately. But all these people that might have one hit or two hits, or they're trying to have a follow-up single, it's just a waste of money. And I think labels are now catching on. I still think they're a little bit outdated, but you know, you see on almost a monthly basis, I feel like labels are getting smarter and smarter, and the sooner that the younger generation becomes executives, it's just going to completely reverse the way we do things.
Yeah.
But I think it's a no-brainer, because, you know, it's a foolproof way to save money, because if it's going to react on TikTok or Triller or Instagram, it's going to react on radio. So why even waste that 6-figure budget when you can spend a fraction of it to test? So.
Dude, I mean, I have this conversation all the time. I mean, I would not even, if I could get away with having a song drive 400 or 500 million streams at a Spotify and Apple Music, I would skip the radio part, because the ROI on that is like gold. It's straight gold.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I have the insight of being able to call a program director in LA or New York and really get a vibe on a record. But then that just opens up a whole can of worms financially for us. You know what I mean? Like if Hot 97 is like, yeah, this is a hit and puts it on, but then now I got to go down that rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole is a lot of money.
And who listens to the radio anymore?
And
that's also the other half of it,
Yeah. And that too. Aaron, what do you think about that? I mean, like, yeah. What do you think?
I think there's nothing more exciting than opening Spotify and having your discovery playlist show you a new artist that you didn't know existed. That's really exciting. And to add on to that, go to their Instagram page and you see like, oh, I'm one of the first people to even find out about them. They haven't even gotten 2,000 followers yet. Oh, I want to be on this journey. Right. And I think that like part of that, like, you want to invest in people that you like, not just money, but like as a consumer, you're like, oh, I'm on the ride. It's like when people used to go to shows and say, oh, I found out about this band first. So I think that there's a big part of like pride and knowing about artists before they hit it big. Maybe it's an artist that's huge in the UK, but they're not huge in the US yet. Even that is exciting. To get there first, I think, is a big part of what, like for me, I'm a lover of pop music, and I love to find new pop music that didn't exist before. And like, I think that's really a fun way to do it.
And I think, I mean, it's interesting because I also speak to all the DSP people, and, we all get, when you're in the music business, whether you like it or not, eventually you're going to get jaded and you're going to be like, oh, well, like, the major labels have the market share of these playlists and this and that. But the truth of the matter is, they kind of do have market share. But the reality is, it's just like what you said, Aaron, there's a lot of people that program huge playlists that live for discovering music. And being able to use their power to break a song unadulterated is phenomenal. Because I think that like the reality with sort of like these different platforms, right? So Spotify or Apple Music, you get to learn really quickly if a song's working or if it's not working, which goes both ways. Because if you know it's working, then you can follow up with it. If you know it's not working, then you can try another thing to make it work, versus like doing traditional press, doing traditional radio. And then also the most beautiful thing with TikTok is that you can have a song like, I don't know, Jay Sean just got a huge resurrection of his career. And like someone said to me, like, "Do you hear that new Jay Sean record?" And I was like a younger kid. And I was like, "You mean like Jay Sean that was signed to Cash Money?" They're like, "Nah, but the song." And they literally didn't even know. And it was like mind blowing to me. And it was mind blowing to me. And I thought that was really cool. So Aaron, I have one more question, which I think is more directed towards you, and then we can sort of wrap up. But like, so as like, a content creator or an influencer, how do you choose music for the things that you do? Like, what is that process for you?
I've definitely learned through trial and error what type of music I should use and what I shouldn't. So in the beginning, it's fun when people say, "Hey, we'll pay money to use this song." And you're like, okay, like, sure, let me use this song. Right. But if I'm playing a hardcore heavy metal or really intense rap song with a lot of profanity, my followers are like, what is this? This is like not our jam, right? Yeah. And I think that like you have to really know your audience and know what is going to be something that they're into. I recently did a campaign with Chris Anthony, and his was more like
one of our clients.
Yeah, and it was, and that went really well. All my friends. So, and I was able to make something that was creative and really was in tune to the time. And so all my friends, school was starting, and there's always that girl in the hallway who feels like she knows everyone from orientation. And so in my head, that's what that took me to. And I said, that could be relatable to my followers. And so just to make a joke on something that's relatable, I think that really does help me decide if that's a song I want to use or not. If it's a song that I'm not so sure of, if I'm like, I don't know how I can make this work, then that's probably not the right song for me. And I think that one, it's a little bit of instinct, but two, it's really knowing your audience and like, would they like this song? Will this be a fun new song for them?
Yeah, that's really cool. So ultimately it's a gut check. If you're like, this feels good, let's rock. I know my fans are probably going to like this. That's really cool. I mean, it's interesting while we have all this technology, and technology is saying, yo, that's going to work, that's not going to work. It truly comes from a place of feeling, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to make a decision on a piece of content that you're going to deliver, it has to be true to yourself, because if it's successful, that's cool. And if it's a failure, that's okay too, if it's true to who you are versus it being a failure and you weren't with it anyway, or even worse, having a success on something that you hate. You know what I mean?
Totally. Well, and I'm a filmmaker by trade, right? Like I went to the
Yeah.
AFI, and when you're adding music to a film, you're not going to add music to a film that doesn't express the emotion of the scene. And
Right.
so what is your scene? And does this song match that? Or can you create a scene that goes with the song? Like, I think that sometimes people forget that because they see content creation and think it's just one small thing. But if you're telling a story, everyone's a storyteller. And how do you make this be the most compelling stories? Whether it's funny, inspiring, it doesn't matter. What music tells your story the best? And that's the music that you should pick.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, guys, this was like really insightful for me. I mean, you know, I go so back and forth with social media just in general, and you know, I'm still a firm believer that if you're a songwriter, if you're writing something from your soul, like, and it has real feeling, it's going to cut its way through as much technology as can be thrown at it. But I also think that we're able to use technology in a way that's good for us. You know what I mean? And I think that if you can use TikTok in a way to spread a positive message or to just share something that's personal to you, or you know, something that created emotion, or you know, has emotion, I think is phenomenal. So I really appreciate you guys sharing with us today, and I think the insight on this is awesome. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Nice to meet you, Dylan.
Yeah,
You
good
too.
good to meet you, Aaron.
Bye.